Hi, welcome to another episode of Bethany Talks About Stuff. I'm your host, Bethany F. DeVores, author of the Sea Addressing Chronicles, available from Amazon. And today I want to do some quick housekeeping and updates, and then I want to do one of my rants. I don't do a lot of rants on this channel because I want to keep this fun and more lighthearted. But this is pop culture related, and it's something that's irking the living snot out of me. So I'm going to talk about it. I have had COVID, and I have been very sick, and I'm feeling a lot better. But I still am a little snotty, so bear with me. I'm still kind of run down, still a little snotty, still get the cough. Today I woke up with a horrible headache, but medicine helped, and I'm just a lot better. I promise you I'm a lot better. So I'm thankful for that. But it has thrown off all my schedules. So I'm trying to get back on track. So forgive me. Sorry. I'm going to get back on the Monday musings. Also, very quickly, I am still planning to do my giveaway of these two books, signed copies of these two books, All from Dreams and More from Dreams, books 1 and 2 of the Sea Addressing Chronicles. The giveaway is going to be based on Locals membership. So if you'll go follow me on Locals, Bethany Talks About Stuff. Locals is social media that's based on communities, and you can join and follow different communities that you like. And it's really cool. I like Locals. So it is free to join, and there will always be some free content. Eventually I will have a paywall, and there will be some premium content behind the paywall. But for now, everything is free. And there will always be some free stuff. So please join the community. If you join by the end of September, you will be entered into a drawing, and I will give away these two books signed within the US because shipping overseas is expensive, and I don't have any prepaid envelopes for that. Sorry. Both of these books are available from Amazon. Today I wanted to quickly talk about something that's bugging the living poop out of me. Okay. I really debated on whether or not to record this video and share it. But in the end, I decided I felt strongly enough about it that I was going to do it. So I want to talk about Amazon's Rings of Power. If you know me or if you followed my show, this should be no surprise that I love The Lord of the Rings. I read The Hobbit as a freshman in high school, and I started reading The Fellowship of the Ring. And then my brother told me, my older brother who's been on the show, thought it was funny to tell me that J.R.R. Tolkien was a Satanist. And I was creeped out by that. So I stopped reading the books. And years later, I found out J.R.R. Tolkien was a devout Catholic. So I went back and read the rest of the books. So I have read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. I've read them more than once because I really enjoyed them. And so I reread them occasionally. And I have not read the Silmarillion, so I'm going to be completely transparent about that. I have not read the Silmarillion or any of the other works, but I have read the core books, The Hobbit, and the Lord of the Rings series trilogy. So in theory, I should be very excited about the Rings of Power because it's going to be a several season long series on Amazon. And it's part of their content, so it's included in your Prime membership. And it's supposed to be a prequel. But I have real problems with this.
What can men do against such reckless hate?
And I'm actually at this point planning not to watch the show, not even to review it. I'm disgusted. And let me tell you why. So not the obvious reasons. And give me a chance to explain myself before you write me off as a nut job, okay? Now, first let me say, you might not like his politics, but Nerdrotic is a content creator from Geeks and Gamers. He has done an excellent job of explaining why a lot of diehard Tolkien fans have a problem with the Rings of Power. And it's not all political, I promise. I mean, some of it is. Some of it is. I get really tired of seeing characters I like in books cast in a way that does not make any sense at all, just for the sake of casting in a way that doesn't make any sense. I don't like that. I hate this term, but we all know what I'm talking about. I don't like whitewashing stories, but I like being true to the story in general, regardless. It doesn't matter what it is. One of the things that people like about seeing a book that they've liked adapted onto the screen, whether it's film or TV, is seeing the characters they read and love and know adapted to the screen. So you expect them to look like how they're described. There's never going to be a perfect Shangri-La. I get that. But I'd like it to be close. Unpopular opinion on my part was I didn't like What's-Her-Face, Emma Watson, doing Belle in Beauty and the Beast. Not because she's not a good actress, but because she's not as strong of a singer as you would expect for somebody doing Belle. She's supposed to have a fantastic voice. And there are a gazillion beautiful, talented young actresses with great voices that could have done that part. They cast her just because she was Emma Watson, which fine. It wasn't enough for me not to see the movie. I saw it. It was fine. It's not my favorite, but it was okay. I didn't think it was terrible, but I was disappointed in the singing by her specifically. So I just felt like that was bad casting. That's just an example of where there are plenty of talented people that fit the role better. Now, let me say this. There are some series that have been cast in ways that don't make sense that have still worked. The Witcher series on Netflix. I still like that series, but there's a couple of reasons. One of my beefs is I don't like the way they've cast some of these characters. They don't look anything like they do in the book. However, the author of that series is alive and well, able to defend his work. If it bothered him enough, he would not have relinquished the rights. I mean, and I guess sometimes they don't always have control over that, but I've seen him in interviews and he's like, it's fine. I think the finished product is great. I'm enjoying the show. He's like, Henry Cavill is now Geralt of Rivia. And even though Henry Cavill doesn't exactly look like how the character's written, he has done a good job with the role, and the author was happy with that. Okay, fine. Tolkien specifically in letters wrote that he didn't want people messing with his stuff.
Whoopsie. Oh, whoops. Whoopsie.
And I liked the Lord of the Rings movies by Peter Jackson specifically because he tried very hard. That whole team, everybody involved in that project, tried really hard to stick to the spirit of the original work. It was phenomenal. It was unbelievable. They worked so hard to do that, and it showed. But the Rings of Power doesn't seem to have that same devotion to the source material. They say they do, but they've changed all kinds of things that are vital to these characters. And I'm not talking about the casting. I'm not talking about what they look like even. I'm talking about plots. I'm talking about storylines. I'm talking about putting characters that never would have been together, like they lived hundreds of years apart, or there are no hobbits at this period of time. But we have Harfoots, which they're saying are not hobbits, but Harfoots are hobbits. That doesn't make any sense. There are things like that I've just been disappointed. It feels like the showrunners didn't know what they were doing. So I'm looking at these trailers, and while yes, some of the look of the trailers is not nearly as beautiful as the look of the Lord of the Rings movies that still stand up today, I still think that the trailers visually look pretty. I would want to watch that show if it wasn't the Lord of the Rings. If the Rings of Power shows, if those trailers were not linked to Tolkien's work and it was just a new fantasy series coming out on Amazon, I would watch it. I would absolutely watch it exactly the way it's cast, exactly the way it's written. But because it's supposed to be Tolkien and it is so untrue to the original source material, I am not interested. Because to me, it feels like a slap in the face.
What?
They fired Tom Shippey, who was a Tolkien scholar who helped with the original Lord of the Rings movies. They ghosted Peter Jackson. I mean, there's just so much off what they've done with Galadriel's character. I have no problem with a strong female warrior fighter character. Obviously, my main character's like that on some level. I don't have a problem with that. But that's not Galadriel. And not every strong female character they're not only strong if they carry a weapon. Like, there is strength outside of being a physical warrior fighter. You can be strong in other ways that are very important. It is true they only had access to 120 pages worth of material, of genuine material. The estate is protected Tolkien's work, and that's all they would release. So basically, almost everything in there is made up and not true to the original lore or canon. And I think if they'd been creative and smart, there was a way they could have still done it. But honestly, as a Tolkien fan, if I wanted to make a show about The Lord of the Rings as a prequel, and I could only get that much of the source material, I'd be like, that is not happening.
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should.
I would just make up my own fantasy series. And I'll do whatever I want in that. And then I'm not bound by that lore or that canon. I get that I'm not Shakespeare. I'm not a wordsmith like Shakespeare. But I like my stories. I like my characters. And I'm going to tell the story I like and want to tell, right? And in this book, in this series, it's a fantasy series. And in that fantasy world are people with all different types of skin colors, and they all look different, and they're diverse in that way. But what brings them together is that they're all from Ciadris, and they all love Ciadris, and they all have the same shared culture, and it doesn't matter what they look like. I thought that was an interesting world to create, set in what would be like kind of a medieval Scotland. That's what it looks like to me in my head, and how I try to describe it. That's that world. It is its own intellectual property that I'm not trying to latch onto somebody else's work and then pervert their canon. I'm hoping this is making some sense. So much wrong that I cannot enjoy it. But if they had just written this fantasy series, cast it the way they cast it, and said, here's something new, I would have been on board with it. I would have liked it. I want to like it. But you can't take The Lord of the Rings and twist it up like that and then go, here you go. And I'm just going to be like, oh yeah, sure. No, I'm not. I'm too much of a nerd. I'm too much of a geek. And I want The Lord of the Rings to be The Lord of the Rings. So no, I'm not going to watch Rings of Power. And frankly, I don't say this very often. Usually I'm like, I don't like it, but help yourself, right? But I kind of hope it fails.
Come here.
Yeah.
They've done Tolkien's work dirty. They've treated Tolkien fans dirty. Like, because we don't agree with what they're doing, we're just terrible people. And I have no respect for this work. Now, that does not mean if you're interested and want to see it, that I think anything less of you. Everybody has different tastes and different likes. Personally, though, I think this is a travesty. Maybe because I'm just so enamored of the Tolkien world that and as an author who's created a fantasy world, I take it kind of personally, which might seem dumb. It probably is dumb, but it is what it is. I have author friends that if I saw somebody take their work and do this, they might not care, but it would still bother me because I'm like, why even bother taking their work? Let me tell you another example, and then I'm going to wrap this up. I Am Number 4. I liked the movie, okay? I thought it was a good movie until I read the book. And then I was like, how does that movie have anything to do with that book? The movie was good if you didn't know anything about the books. This is what I'm talking about with The Rings of Power. If you don't know as much about the world of Tolkien, about the Tolkien universe, The Rings of Power, it may float your boat and you might like it just fine. I saw I Am Number 4 without reading the books, and I thought that was a pretty good movie. I thought the guy who was in it was cute as a button. I Timothy Olyphant played his uncle, and I liked that. And then I read the books, and I was like, holy cow, no wonder the people who were fans of this book series were so mad at that movie. Like, I get it now. And I have read most of that series, and it's a really good series. In fact, I need to go back and reread and finish it because I got the other books and I haven't finished reading it, and it was really, really good. Anyway, that's an example, okay? It's not, maybe it's fine on its own, but when it's part of that universe and you screw it up to that point, there's a problem. And I think it's disrespectful. And Tolkien isn't here to defend himself and his work. I think it's gross.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I was going to try to be more diplomatic in this, but I'm tired, y'all. I'm tired of this nonsense. Why can't we just enjoy what's out there? And if you don't like it, create new stuff. There's such a huge world full of new ideas and new stuff. Put it out there. We don't need to remake everything. I know I sound like an old fuddy-duddy when I say this, but not everything needs rebooted. Not everything needs a prequel. Amazon's put a lot of money into this, and I think they've made a huge mistake. And this is one of the very few times I'm going to say I actually kind of hope it fails, because they've treated Tolkien's work badly and they've treated Tolkien fans badly. And you know what? Shame on you. Just shame on you. Anyway, that's it. I'm still grumpy and mad from having COVID.
Are you crying?
Yes.
I'm not excited about Rings of Power, and it has been eating at me. So I finally just decided, you know what? People will take me or leave me as I am. I hope that you like this video. I hope even if you don't agree with me, that we can still be, internet show friends. It's okay to have different opinions about stuff. And this is mine about this. So, if you like this episode, please take a look at other videos. If you didn't like this video, please still try some of my other videos. You might like something else I have. And if you don't like any of that, well, I hate to hear that. Maybe something I do in the future you will like. I covet your viewership. I'm not too proud to tell you that. So anyway, that's enough of that rant. Hopefully you guys are having a good week. I hope that you're staying safe and well. And that's it for now.